high employment, or we can have high inflation and low unemployment. Okay. And we're going to look at how that actually works off of each other. So take a look at this chart first. I think I got it right here. Yeah. Take a look. The unemployment rate and the inflation rate should move opposite of each other. So when it goes up, like at this point right here, all right, we'll just give some ones. You can see when it's at its highest, this one drops at its lowest. When this one comes down, like this point right here, right, your inflation should go back up. And you can see pretty much it's true on each point, no matter what we look at. Okay, when it starts to decrease, look at it's decreasing, this one's increasing. When this one's increasing, this one's decreasing. When this one's decreasing, wait, this one's increasing, looks like we go from 8 up to about 9. Then this one's decreasing, and vice versa. When this one's decreasing, this one's increasing. So you can see those sections, how it works. Okay, so this one's going this way, goes this way, this one goes this way, right? This one goes this way. Overall, we're looking at average movement here. Okay, this one goes down, this one goes up, this one goes up, this one goes down. So you should be able to see those trends right there. Okay, and that shows us the inverse relationship between unemployment and inflation. When unemployment is going up, inflation's going down. It just means people don't have money. Okay, and the more people who are unemployed, it means that they don't have money. There's not that much inflation because there's no money in the system. When unemployment goes down, everybody has money, there's going to be inflation. So it's a balance that it tends to work right there. Okay. Now, here is our Phillips curve. Okay. Let's take a look here. So this is the one I don't like because I feel it's redundant, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. Okay. So take a look here. We have inflation and we have unemployment. So that's going to be our graph. Okay, those are our new separate graphs. Hold on 1 second. I need to check to make sure everybody's okay. I'm hearing something. Okay. Sorry about the quick interruption. Everything's okay. So here, as we've seen, they happen opposite. We can take 2 points, right? If inflation's 5%, unemployment might be 2%. But if it drops down to 1%, then unemployment might be about 9%. Okay. So you can see the exact trade-off that happens there. When inflation is high, unemployment's low. When unemployment's high, inflation is low. Okay. So that is how we're actually going to measure it. That's going to be our new graph that we're going to put together. So we'll have inflation on our y-axis, unemployment on our x-axis. We will label this called our short-run Phillips curve. So SRPC. Could you get away with PC? Yeah, you could get away with PC. Phillips curve will work too. Okay. But this is the basic idea here, and that's what we're showing. Now, let's talk about how this works out here. In 1958, A.W. Phillips, he studied the relationships of wages and unemployment, and he found out that everything worked well in the 60s. When unemployment was high, inflation was low, and vice versa. So he gets a Nobel Prize. Okay, everyone thought he was great. However, then the 1970s rolled around, and guess what? There was high inflation and high unemployment. And we actually know the term of that, or you should remember that, that's stagflation, right? So his little chart didn't work out so well. So instead of scrapping it, as most people would do, guess what happens? We have Milton Friedman, Edmund Phelps. Those two come together and say, no, you want to know what? A.W. Phillips was not incorrect. It's just that he forgot to take into account that there is 2 Phillips curves. And so they fixed the graph for him. We have one short and we have one long, and we'll see how this works out for our graph here. Okay, so instead of just junking it, they decided to fix it. Now it's a fixture on our test, the Phillips curve. Okay, so here's what the LRPC represents. Okay, it's straight up and down. And if you look at it, that looks like a line that is very similar to something else. And if you're thinking that, then that's correct. That is our LRAS. It represents the same exact thing. Remember, our LRAS represents the natural rate or full employment. Well, guess what? That long run Phillips curve represents the natural rate or full employment as well too. So it represents the same thing. Okay. And the idea is this, that in the long run, there's no trade-off between inflation and unemployment. We should always head back to that 4 to 6%. And we should roughly be about 3%. I always keep telling you 3% inflation. So we always should end up back at those magic numbers in the long run. Okay. That's the idea. Okay. Now, let's put this together here and see how to draw them. This, I think, is the hardest part. And I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do this. Okay. Some of you are really smart and you can figure this out on your own and you don't need me. The rest of you who I wouldn't say are not smart because you are smart as well too, I just like to have everything laid out so there's never any mistakes. Okay. I would say it's not that you're not smart, it's you're conservative in your approach. And that's good. So I'm conservative in my approaches as we go through. So take a look at my brother's cat there, Fenton. Okay. You can see it's just one cat. All as I did is I took the photo and mirrored it. Okay. So I mirrored it along the y-axis right here, right? I just took it and I mirrored it. Just I can't show you my hand, but I went put it on the other side. So it's mirrored. Okay. That's going to be important for us here. Okay. Why is that going to be important? Well, the way I always do this is I draw my long run aggregate supply graph. Okay. Now I haven't put AD here. You can see AD is missing, but I want to show you the symmetry before I put AD and how it looks. So they are just going to be mirrored of each other. That's why I said this graph is kind of redundant and not so important, because really I can show everything I need on the long run aggregate supply graph, and I don't need this one here. And since this one only has 2 lines, as you see right there, it gets a little hard to see shifts. So I always draw the long run aggregate supply graph first. And then when I take the test, I mirror all the shifts on my long run Phillips curve graph, my Phillips curve graph. I show it there. Okay. So that's my strategy. And I told you, like, if you do that, you will always get it correct. Now, some of you will pick it up and you'll memorize it, and that's good. More power to you. For me, I just feel I should always draw the Larraz graph, and I always do, and then I go from there. Okay, it's the one I'm most comfortable with. I've used it the most. It's the one we're going to continue to use the most, because you will always draw this one. You only draw the one on the right when they ask you to. Okay, so it's still more important to know the left side. So I don't have to sit there and memorize all the functions. I just mirror it. Okay. So here's the actual graphs side by side. Okay. And what I want you to do is pay attention to the dots. I color code them. I think they're yellow, red, and green. So you can see how each one works. Right now, notice on the left side, we're in equilibrium, and I added aggregate demand there. Okay. And if we look at the right one, since it crosses right there at our long run Phillips curve, we're also in equilibrium. That would be 2.8% on inflation. And that would be what, 4 to 6% unemployment. Okay. So instead of here measuring how many units we produce, we're measuring how many people are unemployed. Okay. Now, let's say aggregate demand increases. Okay. If aggregate demand increases, whether it doesn't matter the position, I'm going to give you each position here in a moment. See, well, no, let's go back here. I'm showing you the whole scenario. When aggregate demand shifts, you do not shift your short run Phillips curve. It's just a movement along the dot. And this is why I like the mirrored technique, because look at what happens here. This point moves up into the right, then this one should move up into the left. It needs to be mirrored, just like these cat pictures, okay? If I took them and I flipped them on top of each other, I should be getting the same thing, okay? Now we're in inflation, okay? Now let's just work out, let's say the government caused this one by cutting taxes and increasing government spending because it's an election year and the president want to get reelected. So aggregate demand increased. what is going to happen in the long run if the president does not back off his tax cuts or government spending? Well, that would be aggregate supply would decrease. It would shift back, right? Okay. And the reason it shifts back is because wages would increase. This is our inflationary expectation. Okay. Causes wages to go up. So we should be pretty comfortable with these shifts. How does it happen over here? Well, again, this one now shifts up and to the left. This one should shift up and to the right. But look at how it is. This one we got this kind of movement here. 1, 2, 3. And this one we have the same idea. We went 1, 2, 3. So it makes that same kind of shape right there. Okay. The thing I'll point out though is look at when you move your aggregate supply line, you move your Phillips curve line or your short run Phillips curve. So when aggregate supply moves, short run Phillips curve moves. So here's all the possible shifts you could have. Okay. If it's a increased demand, it would move up here to the left. If it's a decrease in demand, it would move down here to the right. And notice you can see them all mirrored again, just like the cat, they're mirrored from the LRAS graph, okay? So when aggregate demand shifts, do not move anything. It's just a movement on the line. Aggregate demand, movement on the line. Okay, aggregate supply, if it decreases or increases, here's the exact shifts that you would have. Do not do this. People tend to do this, and what they'll do is instead of putting the green dot here, they put it here, and then they'll put the dots here, and they'll have the dots all lined up on the long run Phillips curve. No, that's not it. Take a look at what's happening on these individual ones. Here, price, so inflation went up, right? And unemployment went up. Okay, so you have to show both inflation going up and unemployment going up. So it needs to be to the right of the long run Phillips curve. Over here, we shifted into an inflationary gap. So what happened is price level went down, GDP went up. So that means unemployment went down. So I need to show that as well too. Here I show inflation down, unemployment down. So make sure you get those shifts correctly. Practice those. Those are on the study guide, just like that. Make sure you understand the shifts. I'm very confident you guys all know these ones. Just make sure you can translate that into the Phillips curve correctly. Okay? Okay. So let's work on a whole problem here, and then I'll give you guys an FRQ, and you guys can practice that, and then we'll move into problems with fiscal policy, and we'll be finished for today. It says correctly draw short run Phillips or long run Phillips curve and short run Phillips curve, and we're going to relate it, of course, to the ADAS line. So sometimes they don't even ask you to draw this one. I always draw it, okay? And you'll see on the FRQ that I gave you, they don't even ask you for the LRAS. I would still draw it if I was you. Okay. It says we get demand pull inflation. That means aggregate demand increases, right? Okay. What I like to do at this point, if I was drawing this out, I do the shift, I do the point, and then I like to go over here and I just draw a straight line all the way across this way. Okay. I would do this with pencil if I was you. Or you can do it with pen, it doesn't matter. Then I put my dot. Okay. That's how I would draw it out. Looks like I was a little off on the dot, but that's okay. Close enough. Over here, we have this one. Okay. Of course, we're in a recession. What happens when AD falls? Okay. So now we got to draw this one from scratch. So first, I would start with my long run Phillips curve. says recession. What happens when AD falls? So I guess originally we were here. That kind of off. So let's just draw a big dot there. Okay, so I need to cross right there. Short run Phillips curve. Notice this one's going down to the left. Okay, price level went down, unemployment went up. So I need to show price level going down, which is inflation going down. And I need to show my unemployment going up. There it is right there. So I can actually label these right here. This will be my 0.1. This will be my 0.2. Okay. So again, I'm mirroring everything as it goes through. Let's see, do I show it? Yep, there it is. Looks pretty good, except I drew it off. Oh, I guess it drops again. That's what it's saying. And then you would just show the other drop down. Okay, I think we're pretty good there. Let's see here. I want to give you something real quick here. Let's see, let's move